It's my great pleasure to introduce also my friend, Grace Slatter.
Where does it start? That was Roger and me, and Roger's been a big help in all that. He helps with everything, so I've got to give kudos to my husband of 40 years. That was our anniversary trip right there. Okay, where does it all start? Well, it starts with family. There's baby Grace with her mom, right there, baby Grace, and baby Grace with her grandma, Lucinda. And this is my favorite portrait of my mom, and these are her siblings. And these are my cousins here. There's Suzanne, who some of y'all might know as Suzanne Marshall.
Suzanne.
Point up, okay. And when the family would get together and they would talk about family, their family, these are the stories I heard about Grandpa. Grandpa wrote a book. And Grandpa was in the movies. And I did see one of the movies. And a few years later on, there was this really great, wonderful newspaper article that was circulated, but I didn't know exactly where it came from. It was just there, and it was in print, and it had a picture of him. And it mentioned a bunch of the movies and his Hollywood friends. But before we go any further, there's a couple of stories. I'm just going to go into one because we are in kind of a time constraint. Y'all know the story of the elephant and the blind man. One was put in the trunk. He thought it was a snake. Another tusks. He thought it was a sword. Ears. He thought it was a legs. He thought it was a sides. He thought it was a and tail. He thought it was a. That's how we are as historians and people in the present day looking at the past. We see tiny bits and pieces. So we have to kind of gather all these and kind of open our eyes and see. The other one is Plato and Socrates with allegory of the cave. Read it. It's too deep to go into right now because time. Richard Pratt, education goals. Oh no, I did this last week for a church group and I had to go into detail into an hour and I only have time. But I really wanted to mention this in particular because Dr. Henrietta Mann is Cheyenne and one of my friends. This is, okay. So the story is Richard Davis was given to Washington to educate because his dad, Chief Bull Bear, who was the primary signatory of the Cheyenne of the Medicine Lodge Creek Treaty of 1864. After all the wars were over and he had served his time as a dog soldier chief, he knew that war was not really good anymore. So he knew that he had to set an example, and he gave his youngest son to Washington to educate because his older sons, his older children, his daughters were warrior women too. He didn't have that life to follow, so he was sent to Washington to learn the ways, and that was his life. These are all Cheyenne students. This is Richard Davis there. That's his brother Oscar Bullbear, and that's their cousin Carl Matches. I got so many things from the newspapers that have been transcribed, and this is one from 1880, and it was simply signed Davis. The first class was in 1879. Okay, this was an early composition. All the Carlisle boys and girls is doing well to learn these things. All he best she can be. It is very nice working all boys and school to every day he goes to school to read any something in his book and to write to, and this time is to have any school more. And long time ago, Sioux Chief came here, and we take sons. We're going back home to Dakota, and when he can, school in the July, we're going nice time down the mountains. We're going There now, all this Indian school, we go there, all boys and girls, and teachers, we go in there. Just very early, just being,
After 1 year of English.
uh,
After 1 year of English.
after 1 year of English, yes.
He only spoke Cheyenne in 1979.
I love this class. Cheyenne Transporter is a weekly newspaper back in Indian Territory in Canadian County, in El Reno, which was right at the edge of Cheyenne and Arapaho lands. It starts out school supplies coming in, but down below, Walter Matthews and his brother-in-law Davis and Oscar Gilbert of Carlisle called on Wednesday. So they did get back from time to time, and they looked forward to going back. Davis is learning to set type off. Oscar is carpentering. They both expect to return to Carlisle. This is kind of like a photo album of my family. So just kind of enjoy the trip. We'll narrate as we go. Okay. Oscar and his brother. This is a chote photograph from the Smithsonian collection. And this is from Carlisle Historical Society, the Cumberland County Historical Society. And Oscar is up there, carpentering, right there. And more photographs from the Cumberland County Historical Society. Now, what was really amazing to me when I saw this was to see a face that I had formerly seen as an old man face, and to see this face as a very young man with that sharp profile, and learning that profile. These are from different tribes, and that's great-grandpa there. I threw this in because of that church group, because they joined the Presbyterian church there. And I don't know if y'all knew any of this, but that first Presbyterian church was, George Washington was there. John Alvin. Another one from back home. The Morning Star has been enlarged to double its former size and improved in other respects. The Star is a very bright and easy little school paper. We like its tone and wish it much prosperity. It is printed by the Indian schoolboys and Richard Davis Cheyenne, Henry North, Arapaho, Charlestown, and Pawnee printers. Subscription price of the Star is only 50 cents for the whole year, I think. And these are the printer boys. And y'all saw this photograph earlier. Right there, I saw him. And there he is. And here in 1885, from the story of my life is printed in the Morning Star. When the last war of 1876 took place, the prisoners were put under the care of Captain Pratt, who brought them away in chains to Florida, and the kindness he had shown towards them was honored by the tribe, and in the summer of 1877 they were willing their children should become educated. A reservation school was opened where I entered and left my blanket and paint. I attended school irregularly. When 1879 came, a school for all the tribes of Indians was opened at Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania. I had the permission from my father to spend 3 years at that place. When I arrived October 27th, I was put to read from the chart and arithmetic. I began at the first part. I had no knowledge of the English language. 6 years later, he's doing beautifully. And the early female students at Carlisle. This is my great-grandma. Oh, she's so cool. And this one right here is in the front hall, and this is great-grandma there. In the school records, it was kind of confusing because they had her at first as Nellie Aspinall, but I explained that after she got married, she was nanny. She was always nanny to us. But that was the only Aspinall that was here. So now we know. And doesn't he look handsome? And that face, so. this was a treasure. These are all Pawnee people. And the photograph that I saw at the historical Army Historical Heritage Center had names written underneath. And there were just names that I recognized from doing other family research with the Pawnee side. And the Howell sisters, Phoebe and what's her name? Rose. And then Matt Mock and Sam Townsend, they were all very big in the Pawnee tribe. Very great leaders of the Pawnee tribe. And then in the Army photograph, they said Nellie Aspinall married Richard Davis. So it was really an important deal that they got married here. In 1888, the event of the week. And, you know, their friends were from all tribes. Chester Cornelius, Desi Prescott, William Morgan. And I thought it was interesting here that they didn't identify their tribal affiliation here, that there usually was some identification, but they were all just friends here. So service clear and full of meaning was followed by an earnest prayer, and the newly married pair passed out. Instant employees followed. There were editorial errors back then. And I won't go to the next paragraph. The number of presents were given. The boys gave them a sewing machine. The girls a chamber set. And these were important items. You know, they really needed that chamber set because there was not indoor plumbing all that much. It was a big deal. And the sewing machine, great-grandma, the family stories was that she was a famous seamstress. She sewed everything, and she was a beautiful, she sewed beautifully and a wonderful beater. She beaded exquisitely. There were stories about family gathered around and the children, you know, showing them how to bead. White spread, cloth towels, tea set. It was just like this article. And there's the little family, which is rather famous. And you put me in a picture of Richard Davis Cheyenne, who married Nanny Aspinall Pawnee. He has been living with his family in Chester County for several years, and I realized that that's just west of Philadelphia, so they were not exactly here in Carlisle. They lived closer to the big city. I think he had done outings there in Chester County. It is now Richard Davis, the citizen, Richard and Nanny, and their two bright, pretty little children born in Pennsylvania make a very interesting group. This is my grandma. And I had always seen her as an old woman. You want to do this? But that found I did when I first saw that. Oh, that envelope. Oh, y'all were great. So that's Richard and Nanny and my grandmother Chinda and her big sister Mary. And these were such treasures. And it was here. And what was funny was that after doing all this research, this was 18 years ago when we first started doing this, I didn't get this one on the right. And a year later, 18 months later, Barb sent me this copy and said, I was looking into an album and I recognized these children. I thought they must be related. And it is. It's Esther. It's baby Esther. in 1890. There are two children and a sister living here. He went to Carlisle, began first, went to the second, third, fourth. He knew the English alphabet and could read a little before he went to Carlisle, but he had no knowledge of the English language and had no work to do before going there. But when he went there, I learned how to talk English. He is now dairying in Chester County and receiving $30 a month wages, and he also has charge of Guernsey calves. He married an educated Pawnee girl out of school, and they have a tenant house, paying $3 a month rent to their employer. He owns 37 head of cattle, which are on the Cheyenne Reservation. So he's doing very well for himself. He has fully adapted to Pratt's image. And then comes the chance to be the dairyman at Carlisle, which he does. And so at that time, it's Richard and Nanny and Mary and Grandma Richinda and Richinda, Mary, Esther, and then the sister Elsie is living with them. And it's just a beautiful, it's such a great house. We went in it this morning. But the sad thing was, Elsie died. Indian way, she'd be a grandmother. But she was Richard's sister. Soon after that, he moved back to Oklahoma and started helping with his brother, young there, and in different things, and finding ways to earn money. One of the ways he earned money was as a translator and interpreter for anthropologists at different events, such as the Trans-Mississippi and International Exposition. And this was a magnificent find. Beautiful beadwork, right? Leather. Pratt is not happy. Alex of Shaw 97 has heard that it was said that he was seen at Omaha Exposition dressed as an Indian. And he would have it distinctly understood that the statement is false and injurious. Richard Davis and he were called to have their photographs taken by the Smithsonian Institute and donned buckskin suits for the picture. They both wore the same one, and he wore the pantaloons that morning. Alex, in keeping with those not Indian, paid his board and did not join in any of the Indian games except when sent by the authorities. The interpreters who must do their duty, and he did not wish to refuse the agent. He took part in sham battles in order to have his men understand what Captain Mercer planned with the Indians. He went with the Crow Indians as their interpreter. Alex would not have his schoolmates know that he was trying to be a man, although in the midst of trials and tribulations. That he is trying to be a man, although in the midst of trials and tribulations. He says Montana is a good climate for good health. Same year. And that kind of goes along with I lost her. Oh, there she is. Jacqueline, that kind of goes along with what you were saying, that they were on show. Another time that he worked with the anthropologist was with the 1905 exposition, St. Louis exposition. These are Cheyenne and Sioux. Richard Davis is here. His brother, young bull bear, is there. This man is bushy head. And I look at him, and I always look at him because my mom went to school with Jerome Bushyhead, and he looks just like that man. So I figured that they're related. Portraits from the Chicago Field Museum, another view of those. I was on Ancestry, and they Ancestry.com, they opened up this new collection of images from this Library of Congress, and I always look at the Indian pictures, and I looked at some of them, the different tribes, and then I saw this one, Cheyenne Chiefs and Family. I saw this profile, and gee, that profile looks familiar, but it was so tiny. Didn't that profile look familiar right there? It looks so tiny, so next time Roger and I were in Washington, which happened very fortuitously when we were, when he went with me to American Library Association, we went to the Library of Congress, found that photograph, had it blown up to where we could actually see what it was, and it was Grandpa. And the guy across from him was Bull Bear, young Bull Bear. And if that was their family, then that's probably one of my grandmas and one of the aunties. I just don't know their faces as well. And then I made a connection with a resident in California, and he sent this portrait. And that's all the family kind of grown up. I love this little girl here with this little teddy bear. She was just heartening the baby. That's Nellie. She was named Nellie, Roy. This is Edna, Mary. You know, the little baby, the third little baby with the long face, the same little face, that's Esther. And this is my grandma Richenda here. And when I showed this to other family, they said, no, that can't be Grandma. Grandma's this one. I said, she's sitting down. It's got to be Grandma, because my grandma was born with deficiency in one leg. If you notice the children's picture, my grandma was sitting down. So, this one, that's my logic. So that was about 1910, according to the age of the children.
This is very hard for you.
Well,
The big
Sinus.
sinuses made remember.
Sinuses too. About this time, he was going into other things. One of the things that he was going into was the vaudeville circuit. This is Mademoiselle Tuna, and some of the information that Barb had collected. There was this letter that that he signed, "Respond in care of Mademoiselle Tuna in Chicago." And Mademoiselle Tuna, I'm still not sure exactly who that is, but I think very strongly that she was an agent who collected. She started out as a lecturer, and she would talk about the Indians in Indian country, and then she developed an act of operas singing Indians who sang in full regalia. So it was Mademoiselle Tuna and the Indians, and eventually it became Madame, and in one of Richard Davis's diaries, he Madame Tuna. In one of his diaries, he referred to the passing of Madame. Madame has passed. We were so sad. So that's one of the. And the other connection is that this person had a sister who married Chief Richard Davis, Chief Leopard. So they were singers in California, and he had made a transition to California about this time. Gone to Chicago and did the Orphan circuit, among other things, and then from there they went to Chicago. I'm not clear on dates because I'm collecting these from different areas, and there's not a real good timeline for all of this. A lot of it's lost when piecing together. This over here, can you see on the right it says Tuna's 7 Indians, and right underneath, trying to find my cursor, yeah, right underneath, it says, featuring Thunderbird, who was selected by, I can't read it now. But that was great grandpa touring with her in 1915 on the vaudeville circuit. There's 8 full-blooded North American Indians, 8. At this time, it's a little distant from the Indian Wars. It's not as immediate and horrifying. It's more of a curiosity, I think. But I like their lineup, representing 6 tribes in a fascinating, wonderful, and unique presentation of war dances, tableau, folk songs, and grand opera arias in full regalia. And the cousin in California, this was some of his collection. There was not a title to the article. It was just this article with the date of 21/1924. And because he tells the pressman Muncie people are hospitable, I think it's in Muncie, Indiana. What do you think? Oh, and this one's significant because keep on losing this cursor. Yeah, that's great grandpa. You know, there was more than Buffalo Bill. Did y'all know that? Miller Brothers 101 Ranch in the north part of Oklahoma, outside Ponca City, was before Buffalo Bill. And he recruited Indians from around there. They were so big and so diverse that they started movies. And the early westerns, early silents were filmed out there because they had it all. They had the cowboys, they had the Indians, they had the cattle, they had the buffalo, they had everything. The only negative on all that was the weather. One year, the set was torn apart by tornadoes twice, and that's when they moved to California. Dylan was a photographer, the 101 branch, and this is Thunderbird shining. Fine Dylan. This is a letter from Richard Davis to Joe Miller. Now, Joe, if you want 2 aristocratic Indians this summer, just call on me and Mr. Walter Batiste, 2 of your old boys. We are both prepared with the finest Indian outfits and with real Indian wigs. My personal outfit is worth something. I still have the eagle feather headdress I wore at the Coliseum, Chicago, and at Coney Island, and have also a new horned headdress trimmed with white mink and a new buckskin suit whole, besides 2 other suits. Batiste has also a good outfit and is about to get a shiny eagle feather double-tailed warbine, something unusual. You don't see these two-tailed headdresses often. I have 8 farms, a good city home, and money in the bank, and Batiste has 3/4 interest in a store and money in the bank, and we care for no one else, only yourself and the other little boys, and we would like to patronize your show this summer just for pleasure. But Batiste weighs 230 and I weigh 215, and I think we're too heavy to ride. Now, Joe, if you want 2 of your old boys that will stay with you, ride at once. Joe did, they did, but they got a reduced rate because they didn't ride. He moves, unfortunately, he divorced great-grandma. The family story is that he begged grandma to go to California. By this time, the move to California, most of his close family had passed, and his children were mostly grown and able to leave school or to make the move. They weren't small children. And he saw more opportunity there. 1920 federal census showed that they were divorced. But he did move to California. He married that other woman. There was a singer with Mademoiselle Tina. Okay. I have a picture, but I'm not going to show you. But feelings run deep, you know. This is at the Hoyt Theater. Roger and I sat there and we enlarged that and got the magnifier out, but that's Hoyt Theater, and somewhere on the strip where they had a lot of entertainment and stuff. Huh? Los Angeles, thank you. Oh. And that's him, that's great grandpa right there with the headdress. And right there, that's just a distant view, there's the Hoyt there. It just kind of gives you a flavor of the street. Y'all come on in, get comfortable. We're fine. I'm used to 4-year-olds, okay?
What is that?
There were, I was a children's librarian, you know. I had children, I'm sorry, my husband's getting frustrated at me. I'm getting up there, time. The Covered Wagon, it's a very famous silent film, and he was part of it. And this is Colonel Tim McCoy, who was a great promoter of the film, and who also gathered together a group of Indians to perform before the audience before the showing of the film. And, oh, minutes, 10? Okay, never mind. All right, there he is in front of other ways to go, providing professional interest. This is part of the show business skill. So there he is, right there. There's more pictures. There's that horned headdress. Cowboy stars, Hoot Gibson, Tom Mix. Notice the little baby with the teddy bear. Before we had this picture in the family collection, and I never knew who the little baby was until we got that other picture and realized it was Nellie. Chief Thunderbird, actress and movie producer. This is on location in Arizona and visiting family. This is grown-up Mary with her husband Walter Rhodes. If I can find, there's that cursor. Grown-up Mary in front of the same house. He did entertainment at the Hotel del Coronado in San Diego. Okay, San Diego. So the program is interesting because it has a similar lineup to the Grand Opera arias, tableaus, a similar setup to the vaudeville deal. Big identification as a lecturer. Iron Eyes Cody said it was Chief Thunderbird who emeritus. He was now a successful lecturer, making about $500 for each speech he gave to various groups. PTA's historical organization, his colleagues, you name it, this was fantastic money in those days and fantastic money today to me, especially at my rate today. And then there were the talkies. Indians Are Coming, Universal Serial. It was the first all-talking, complete sound rather than a silent movie with occasional sound section film of its kind. Played at the Roxy and was responsible for sending the film serial format into the sound era. And it was also, there he is right there, front and center, the first Western with Indian dialogue was Universal's talkie serial, The Indians Are Coming, in which Chief Thunderbird spoke in his native Sioux. And I still want to take some of these silent films, silent movies with him speaking and take it to Concho and ask them to interpret and see if there's any real preservation. I can't show this, it takes too long. I had a film clip. Indian Authority, this Buffalo Valley with Buffalo Bill, Jim Thorpe, this was right there. There's a film card, Jim Thorpe on the left, and William Desmond and Chief Thunderbird. Heroes of the West, Massacre, Laughing Boy. Other than film, other than photographs, I recognize my grandfather's features other ways, and this is one that I recognize. And that's obviously Navajo dress, but I figure it was made during the filming of that one. Rustlers of Red Dog. This was really good. There was featuring John McBrown. John McBrown, isn't he a lovely guy? Raised in Dothan, went to the University of Alabama, my alma mater. Do I get a roll tide? Come on. Cyclone of the Saddle. Chick Davis was an alternate name. Cyclone of the Saddle. There he is. Chief Thunderbird. Lower right corner. That's him. And he also was working with the Boy Scouts. Camp staff consists of Robert Herring, Chief Thunderbird, Indian counselor. To this day in California at certain camps, the chief counselor is named Chief Thunderbird because he did so much work there. Annie Oakley, this was the one I remember watching with my mom. She'd make popcorn, we'd watch it at night. She said, look, there's Grandpa. Who else gets to hear the great-grandpa's voice? Really talking. This was a new book, and he's still being mentioned. First handwritten reminiscences were incorporated in script. Sitting Bull was played by the 69-year-old Chief Thunderbird of the Cheyenne, who, as a boy of 10, had known Bull during the time of the Custer Massacre, and whose older brother had traveled with the original Annie Oakley and Buffalo Bill's Wild West show in 1860. Thunderbird's father had been priest chief of all the North American Cheyenne, consisting of 5,000 warriors. His mother was a warrior priestess of the Cheyenne Dog Soldiers. And there he is, on the right. I think that's a good Indian wig. Custer's Last Stand. I think it's ironic that he got to play in Custer's Last Stand. Another vaudeville act that made the movies, the Silly Billies, The Country Beyond, Chief Big Bear, he's standing at the far right. Buck Jones, I love Buck Jones, I think he's a great cowboy. The Plainsman Lux Radio Theater, I mentioned this because he was an Indian authority with the Plainsman, and there's his radio artist card. He also played a part in the radio plays. There were more radios than movie theaters in the country at the time, so this was a big deal. There's John McBrown again. John Woodback was another name for the author of that. As a librarian, that made sense to me. Shirley Temple, my mother-in-law just loved Shirley Temple, but he was in this movie as well. Geronimo, do we have time for a story about this one? One of the group, there was a war going on about this time. Private Everhart, somebody asked him if he thought he could jump out of the picture the next day without fear. Everhart, not used to having his competence questioned, responded that he would not be scared, and to prove it, he would let his fellow paratroopers know that he could keep his presence of mind by yelling something to them right after he jumped out. He chose Geronimo. Yeah. And I think that's Kate went through more than the paratroopers. Northwest Mountain Police, Wild Bill Hickok, Falcon Out West. This was 1944, and that was Falcon Out West was a franchise rather than a serial. There's his Screen Actors Guild cards, which I thought were a treasure. And Arizona nurses meet Chief August 3, 1945 at the christening of that ship. Huh?
He was invited to christen the ship.
Yes. And then his passing made the New York Times obituary. He was 80. And I mentioned the time when he was doing Annie Oakley, he was 69. I am so awed by that. He was 69 and starring in those movies and active up until 2 years before he died. It was just so, they had a real good reputation. Pratt did a wonderful job in promoting his school. He had various, what's my time? 1 minute, okay. He was a student, farmer, dairyman, scout for U.S. Cavalry, investigator for U.S. Department of Justice, translator, Wild West shows, Orpheum Theater, vaudeville circuit, radio, movies, silent and talkies, lecturer, special guest, Boy Scout counselor, Southwest Museum lecturer, and donor, resort entertainment. He had a wonderful career in entertainment. And this struck me, an educated native is the most powerful weapon we can use to change this world. This was a mantra that my mother gave to me, and it had been passed down, the result of 3 generations of boarding school experience. And I was not in boarding school myself, but I had that in my family. And thank you all for your help in my research, all of this.